While Murphy brought his trademark charisma and improvisational energy, Freeman, long celebrated for his disciplined, measured approach, found the chaotic environment difficult to tolerate. What began as creative tension eventually revealed a deeper philosophical divide between the two performers, one rooted in Freeman's reverence for structure and preparation, and Murphy's more casual, spontaneous style. According to insiders on the set, Murphy would frequently arrive hours late, often without reviewing his lines or properly preparing for emotionally heavy scenes. Rather than using downtime to rehearse or refine his performance, he entertained the crew with off-the-cuff impressions and comedic bits. While some found his antics amusing, Freeman grew increasingly irritated, particularly when Murphy's joking derailed serious scenes or threw off the rhythm of other actors. Freeman, deeply committed to the storytelling process, saw Murphy's behavior as not only a distraction, but a sign of disrespect toward the cast, crew, and material. Director Rob Reiner later acknowledged the tension in interviews, noting that Freeman's patience began to wear thin as Murphy's interruptions became more frequent during key dramatic scenes. Murphy would sometimes break character in pursuit of a laugh, sabotaging moments that required emotional continuity. Script supervisor Janet Hershenson described how multiple takes were ruined by Murphy's antics, and how Freeman, usually composed, began showing visible signs of frustration: a clenched jaw, a heavy sigh, a refusal to meet Murphy's eye after a spoiled take. Freeman never confronted Murphy publicly with anger, but his quiet rebuke spoke volumes. In private, Freeman reportedly summarized the dynamic with cutting precision. Eddie confused being funny with being professional, which is why he never understood that great comedy requires the same discipline as great drama. The statement wasn't born of personal hate, but of disappointment. Freeman wasn't upset that Murphy was funny. He was dismayed that Murphy didn't seem to respect the craft they both depended on. It was this lack of mutual understanding that ultimately defined their troubled collaboration. Kevin Costner. Kevin Costner's position near the top of Morgan. Freeman's personal blacklist is less about personal hate and more about a deep-seated professional frustration, one rooted in Freeman's intolerance for unchecked ego, pretending to be artistic authority. Their troubled dynamic began during the early 1990s, a period when Costner was riding high on the massive success of Dances with Wolves, which earned him Academy Awards for both Best Picture and Best Director. At that time, Costner had begun to see himself not just as a leading man, but as a cinematic visionary, a self-perception Freeman found both presumptuous and harmful to collaborative filmmaking. According to insiders, the working relationship between the two was fraught from the beginning. Costner's triple-role status, actor, director, and producer, gave him wide creative control, which he exercised with relentless intensity. Freeman, a veteran actor with decades of experience and a strong belief in collaborative respect, was quickly dismayed by Costner's tendency to override directors, rewrite scenes without consultation, and insert himself into every layer of production. This wasn't passion in Freeman's eyes, it was vanity. Producer Jim Wilson later revealed that Freeman attempted to raise concerns about Costner's overreach through quiet, professional channels. His suggestions that the director respect the script or that the cast be treated as equals rather than props in Costner's vision were met with indifference. Costner, riding the wave of critical acclaim and commercial success, appeared deaf to critique. What particularly annoyed Freeman was the subtle way Costner, despite working with respected peers, would often re-enter the narrative around himself, marginalizing even seasoned actors like Freeman to serve his own image. The environment this created was one of subtle chaos, constant script changes, clashing creative visions, and a sense that everyone else was merely orbiting Costner's ego. For Freeman, whose career was built on ensemble integrity, discipline, and mutual respect, The experience was disheartening. He didn't lash out publicly or create drama, but in private, he reportedly delivered one of his most scathing verdicts. Kevin confused success with wisdom, which is why he never learned that true leadership means serving the story, not being served by everyone else. It was a damning assessment, one that captured Freeman's disappointment not only in Costner as a collaborator, but in a broader Hollywood trend where fame and financial success were too often mistaken for genuine artistic insight. Charlie Sheen. Charlie Sheen holds a unique and unenviable place in Morgan Freeman's view of Hollywood, not simply as a troubled figure, but as the embodiment of everything Freeman finds corrosive about an industry that too often enables destructive behavior. In the name of celebrity. Early in Sheen's career, Freeman reportedly saw a flicker of promise, a young actor with dramatic potential and a family legacy in film. But that optimism soon soured into profound disappointment and eventually outright contempt. What disturbed Freeman was not only Sheen's self-destruction, but the collateral damage it inflicted on the professional community around him. Their limited collaboration, brief but revealing, occurred during a period when Sheen's public image had already begun to fray. Freeman entered the project hoping for professionalism, only to be met with chaos. Sheen's notorious unpredictability, coupled with persistent substance abuse issues, resulted in a toxic work environment. He was frequently late, often unprepared, and sometimes outright incoherent on set. Freeman, known for his rigorous discipline and respect for the craft, quickly realized that Sheen's erratic behavior wasn't just frustrating. It was dangerous to the integrity of the production. Chuck Lorre, a producer familiar with Sheen's spiral, during 2.5 Men, later confirmed that Freeman had expressed concerns early on. Concerns that were brushed aside until Sheen's problems became impossible to ignore. Freeman, who believed deeply in the responsibility artists carry toward their colleagues and audience, was appalled by how Sheen's conduct forced crew members to scramble, reshoot scenes, and work under constant tension. For Freeman, filmmaking was a sacred collaboration. For Sheen, it seemed more like a stage for self-indulgence, as Sheen's personal scandals began dominating headlines. From drug binges and erratic interviews to allegations of abuse, Freeman's discomfort turned into something stronger. He found himself fielding media inquiries about Sheen's behavior, forced to defend his own involvement in projects now overshadowed by scandal. Director Oliver Stone, who had worked with both men, noted Freeman's unease when off-screen drama became more newsworthy than the work they were trying to do. Freeman's final word on the matter was uncharacteristically sharp. "Charlie taught me that talent without discipline is just waste, and waste eventually contaminates everything around it, including the people trying to help." It was a cutting but honest summation of a man whose promise had curdled into peril and whose legacy, in Freeman's eyes, served as a cautionary tale about what happens when brilliance is consumed by recklessness. Russell Crowe. Russell Crowe's reputation for on-set volatility is well known, but few of his professional relationships deteriorated as completely as the one he shared with Morgan Freeman. Their clash, which occurred during a high-profile, unnamed production, stands out not because of one explosive moment, but due to a slow-building, near-irreconcilable divide in philosophy and temperament. For Freeman, a paragon of professionalism, discipline, and quiet authority, Crowe's combustible energy and domineering behavior became intolerable. According to insiders and even director Ridley Scott, who had worked with both men, the trouble began early in production. Crowe, known for immersing himself deeply in his roles, began challenging Freeman's interpretation of key scenes. While creative debate isn't unusual among actors, Crowe took it further, questioning Freeman's motivations, suggesting alternate deliveries, and even instructing supporting actors on how to deliver their lines. Freeman, who believed deeply in trusting the director's vision and respecting the collaborative process, found Crow's intrusions insufferable. The situation worsened when Crow's temper, already notorious in Hollywood circles, led to repeated outbursts at crew members. What should have been simple shoot days were bogged down by emotional escalations, power plays, and unnecessary friction. Freeman, who had built a career on steadiness and mutual respect, found the atmosphere not just unpleasant, but creatively toxic. Despite his usual patience and diplomacy, even Freeman was seen showing signs of short responses, visible irritation, and deliberate withdrawal from off-camera engagement. What sealed the divide wasn't just what happened on set, but what occurred after. During press interviews, Crow reportedly dismissed Freeman's work as old-fashioned, implying that younger actors brought more authenticity and rawness to their performances. Freeman, who had spent decades honing his craft and mentoring emerging talent, viewed the remarks as both insulting and deeply ignorant. It was a direct attack, not just on his method, but on the very values he believed defined great acting: discipline, empathy, and restraint. From that point forward, Freeman made it known quietly but firmly that he would never work with Crow again. The decision was not born of a single grudge, but from a profound disillusionment. As Freeman later put it in private circles, Russell mistook being difficult for being deep, which is why he never learned that real intensity comes from discipline, not drama. It was one of the sharpest assessments Freeman ever made of a colleague, and it has echoed in Hollywood ever since. Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson's inclusion among the very few actors Morgan Freeman openly despises stands as a stark contrast to Freeman's typically diplomatic demeanor. It wasn't born of petty on-set friction or ego-driven disputes. It was something far deeper, a painful, moral, and professional reckoning. For Freeman, the disillusionment with Gibson symbolized the tragic reality that immense artistic talent could be paired with beliefs and behaviors so troubling that they ultimately tainted the art itself. In the early stages of their professional interactions, Freeman had genuine admiration for Gibson. He respected the ambition and technical mastery behind Braveheart and was intrigued by Gibson's commitment to bold, challenging cinema. There was even talk of future collaborations, serious, weighty films with the potential to explore themes of faith, identity, and power. But as Freeman became more familiar with Gibson's worldview and how it bled into his creative process, the admiration quickly soured. According to producer Brian Grazer, who was involved in several of those early development talks, Freeman was deeply disturbed by Gibson's insistence on pushing controversial and sometimes historically questionable narratives into otherwise promising screenplays. What should have been artistically neutral stories began taking on shades of personal agenda, subtle but unmistakable alterations that reflected Gibson's more extreme views. Freeman saw this not just as an artistic misstep, but a betrayal of a filmmaker's duty to serve truth and humanity above ideology. Freeman's frustration turned into quiet resistance. He began withdrawing from projects associated with Gibson, citing creative differences. But the turning point wasn't creative. It was personal, as Gibson's off-screen scandals mounted, particularly his widely publicized anti-Semitic remarks, allegations of domestic abuse, and inflammatory rants. Freeman faced a hard choice. Association with Gibson, even indirectly, risked appearing complicit. For a man who believed storytelling was a moral act with real consequences, this was a line that couldn't be crossed. In an uncharacteristically candid moment, Freeman reportedly confided to close colleagues, "Mel taught me that brilliance without character is just dangerous intelligence. And dangerous intelligence has no place in storytelling that shapes how people see the world." That statement became Freeman's final word on the matter, a pointed message, not just about Gibson, but about the responsibility that comes with influence. It was a rare but powerful public stand from a man who rarely makes enemies, but refuses to ignore the cost when art and morality diverge. Will Smith. Morgan Freeman's complicated distaste for Will Smith did not erupt in public feuds or on-set outbursts. It unfolded subtly. A slow erosion of trust and respect rooted in Freeman's perception of Smith's calculated ambition. While many in Hollywood admired Smith's meteoric rise and charismatic presence, Freeman, known for his no-nonsense integrity and reverence for the acting craft, gradually came to see Smith less as a fellow artist and more as a shrewd careerist cloaked in charm. Their initial collaboration reportedly began on a high note. Freeman welcomed Smith's enthusiasm and professionalism and even appreciated the younger actor's apparent reverence for veterans like himself. Smith, always polished in public, was quick to express admiration for Freeman in interviews and award speeches, often referring to him as a mentor or source of inspiration. At first, Freeman seemed flattered, but over time that admiration began to feel fake. Behind the scenes, Freeman observed patterns that troubled him. According to producer Jerry Bruckheimer, Freeman noticed how Smith leveraged relationships with established stars, Freeman included, not as opportunities for genuine growth or mentorship, but as strategic optics to solidify his image as a serious, respected actor. Freeman grew wary as Smith regularly referenced him in interviews, using their professional association to bolster his award season narratives, all while privately disregarding Freeman's advice on character depth, script selection, and artistic vulnerability. The final break came when Smith, while publicly praising Freeman as a guiding influence, privately dismissed his creative counsel, opting instead for flashier roles that prioritized box office returns over artistic substance. Freeman saw this as a betrayal, not of friendship, but of artistic values. To him, Smith's behavior embodied the most hollow form of Hollywood opportunism, borrowing the credibility of others without doing the work to earn it. Freeman's decision to distance himself was quiet but firm. He did not issue public critiques, but colleagues noticed the cool professionalism replacing any warmth between them. In later private conversations, Freeman summed up his disillusionment with sharp clarity. Will mastered the appearance of depth, without ever committing to the difficult work of actually finding it, which is the difference between being a movie star and being an actor. It was not bitterness, but a deep disappointment from a man who had spent his life upholding the craft, watching it be used as a stepping stone rather than an end in itself. What do you think about the 11 actors that Morgan Freeman hates the most? Leave us your comments in the section below. We hope you have found this helpful video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you for watching this, and see you in the next videos. Goodbye. People who say, well, I would like to have done so and so and so. So you could have done it. Said, well, I couldn't get out of here. Man, the bus runs every day. I may have the voice of God, but even I've run out of patience. Morgan Freeman admitted at 88. Before revealing the 5 actors he truly hated working with, known for his calm personality and being professional. Freeman shocked fans by calling one actor a diva in denial, and another the most disrespectful man I've ever squaled. Man I've ever met? After a lifetime in Hollywood, he's finally naming names. And the list is nothing short of explosive. Denzel Washington. Though not really saying he hates him, Morgan Freeman has openly admitted to feeling a little jealous toward fellow actor Denzel Washington, a feeling that comes not from being mean, but from really admiring his work. In a 2024 interview with Far Out magazine, Freeman spoke honestly about Washington's amazing career, calling him one of the people in movies that I admire and envy the most. It was a rare look into Freeman's inner world, showing the competitive feelings that still burn inside even the most successful stars. Freeman praised Washington's never-giving-up attitude, his ability to play different roles, and his magnetic screen presence. He talked about Washington's ability to easily switch between different types of movies and characters, from morally complicated bad guys to dignified leaders, while keeping both critics and audiences happy. "He's got this gravity about him," Freeman said. "He walks into a scene and you feel it even if he hasn't said a word yet." The statement wasn't about rivalry in a mean way, but rather showed how deeply Freeman respects his peers' body of work. It showed a kind of emotional intensity based on ambition and the shared challenges of being successful black leading men in Hollywood over several decades. For Freeman, the jealousy came not from feeling insecure, but from professional wanting. An appreciation for Washington's bold choices and the consistent excellence he brings to his roles. In a business often driven by ego, Freeman's honesty stood out. His words carried a tone of humility and respect, showing a truth rarely spoken out loud among actors of his level. That greatness often inspires jealousy, and that such jealousy can exist alongside deep respect. Gene Hackman. Morgan Freeman was clearly affected when Gene Hackman, his longtime collaborator and friend, announced his retirement from acting in 2004. The news marked the end of an era, not just for Hollywood, but personally for Freeman, who had developed a deep professional admiration for Hackman over the years, in a thoughtful 2025 interview with Entertainment Weekly. Later reported by Fandom Wire, Freeman remembered his reaction with a touch of humor but clear sincerity. "He's retired, silly man. You take talent like that away from me? I'm not happy about that." Though said with a chuckle, Freeman's words carried real disappointment. The comment, filled with love and frustration, showed more than just casual regret. For Freeman, Hackman wasn't simply a colleague. He was a creative equal, someone who brought out his best work and helped make any scene they shared better. The silly man joke was a playful jab that hid a deeper emotional truth. Freeman felt the loss of a sparring partner, a craftsman whose very presence on set pushed him to improve. His own performance? Freeman and Hackman shared a notable chemistry on screen, particularly in Unforgiven 1992 and Under Suspicion 2000. Both actors brought a commanding seriousness to their roles, often playing characters with complicated morals in many ways. Their dynamic was built on mutual respect and unspoken understanding, a kind of artistic shorthand that only happens between actors of equal depth and discipline. Freeman's sad reaction to Hackman's retirement shows how closely tied admiration and frustration can be when a peer steps away. It wasn't just the industry that lost something. It was Freeman personally. The absence of Hackman left a space unfilled. A reminder that even legends mourn the closing chapters of collaborations that once defined their best work. Jim Carrey. In a revealing conversation with Far Out magazine, Jim Carrey thought back on the surprising intensity he witnessed from Morgan Freeman during the making of Bruce Almighty 2003, an otherwise comedic and light-hearted film. While many associate Freeman with warmth, seriousness, and a soothing presence, especially given his iconic role as God in the movie, Carrey shared a memory that showed Freeman in a more scary light. "He kind of scared Tom Shadig, the director. It was hilarious," Carrey said before telling about a particularly sharp moment on set when Freeman turned to someone and said, "Never touch me again." According to Carrey, this wasn't said with humor, but with a pointed seriousness that instantly changed the energy in the room. "He's like this laser that goes right to your soul," Carrey added, emphasizing the focused, piercing quality of Freeman's presence. Though not necessarily aggressive or unkind, Freeman's attitude carried an unmistakable authority, one that could unsettle even those in charge. Though these remarks came from Carrey's perspective and not from Freeman himself, they hint at an underlying dynamic during production, an unease or sense of psychological tension coming from Freeman's powerful screen persona, which bled into real-life interactions. For someone like director Tom Shadig, typically known for his relaxed, collaborative style, Being scared by Freeman suggests the actor's presence commanded difference. Even in a comedic setting, it wasn't traditional conflict in the dramatic sense, but rather an undercurrent of respect mixed with anxiety, as if everyone knew Freeman could, with just a few words or a glance, shift the emotional temperature of the room. Casey Affleck. While working on Gone, Baby Gone, 2007, Casey Affleck had a memorable and somewhat humbling encounter with Morgan Freeman that revealed just how seriously Freeman took professionalism on set. Directed by Ben Affleck in his directorial debut, the film was already a high-pressure environment, but the tension briefly flared when Casey arrived late to set one day. During a later appearance on a talk show, Casey told about the incident with a mixture of amusement and lingering discomfort. "He dressed me down in front of the crew. It was humiliating, but I was protecting someone else." Freeman, known for his measured voice and composed demeanor, apparently turned that trademark calm into a laser-focused scolding. He didn't raise his voice unnecessarily, but his tone, authoritative and unyielding, left no doubt he meant business. The actor, then in his 70s and already a respected Hollywood icon, made it clear that being late, regardless of the reason, was unacceptable. Affleck's explanation, protecting someone else, was never explained further, adding a layer of mystery to the story. But Freeman didn't ask for more details. For him, it wasn't about the excuse, it was about maintaining discipline. On set, though the exchange didn't turn into a full-blown argument, the memory stayed with Affleck. Freeman's willingness to call him out publicly in front of cast and crew showed the senior actor's commitment to order and mutual respect in a collaborative environment. It wasn't about ego or dominance. It was about accountability. In that moment, Freeman acted not just as a co-star, but as a quiet enforcer of professionalism. The experience, while painful for Affleck, showed Freeman's no-nonsense approach to filmmaking, and the weight his presence carried among even the most seasoned actors. T.I. during the early table reads for Las Vegas 2013. A light-hearted comedy about four aging friends reuniting in Las Vegas. An unexpected clash between Morgan Freeman and rapper-turned-actor T.I. disrupted the production's early momentum. According to multiple production sources, tensions flared when T.I. cast in a supporting role fell asleep during a group script read, while other cast members, including legends like Robert De Niro, Michael Douglas, and Kevin Kline, maintained focus and professionalism. T.I.'s apparent lack of interest struck a nerve, especially with Freeman. Freeman, known for his commanding on-screen presence and off-screen discipline, didn't hesitate to confront the situation directly. Witnesses reported that he turned to T.I. mid-read and loudly addressed him. "Son, are you with us? Get up. What's your problem?" The scolding cut through the room, silencing conversation and catching the attention of everyone present. Though Freeman's tone wasn't cruel, it was unmistakably firm, his words echoing the kind of authority that accepted no nonsense. For T.I., the moment was deeply humbling. In a later interview, he confessed the experience made him feel like a little boy in school, caught slacking off by the sternest teacher imaginable. While Freeman's words alone didn't seal T.I.'s fate, the moment symbolized a deeper issue, a lack of preparedness or seriousness on T.I.'s part that clashed with the expectations of a veteran-led ensemble. Shortly after the incident, T.I. was fired from the production and his role was recast. It stands as one of the rare documented instances where Freeman's disapproval directly influenced a casting decision. The episode showed Freeman's commitment to professionalism and respect for the craft, expecting others, no matter their background or celebrity status, to meet the same standard. Eddie Murphy, T. Murphy's strained working relationship with Morgan Freeman reportedly took shape during a high-profile collaboration that quickly turned into a clash of temperaments and work ethics.